Hello, welcome to episode 38. Greetings. This episode we are going to do two things. We're going to install the Motogadget M-Lock, which is an RFID ignition system, and we're going to tidy up and hopefully finish off all of the wiring loom in preparation to move off the electrics onto something else like the brakes. So, let me show you what's going on. Okay, Motogadget M-Lock. There we go. This is the business end. It's a RFID sensor, and essentially you use one of these things to start your ignition like that. In the bag there's a relay, which I won't be using, and a fuse, which I will. It came with instructions which are in German, always a pleasure. So I printed out the English version. Anyway, the only bit we need to know is where it goes, and that's going to need to be altered, isn't it? Like that. There you go. So essentially, there's three wires. There's a black, a red, and a brown. Red goes via our little fuse to the positive terminal of the battery. Black is to earth, and brown goes to the lock input. So, if you remember my old one of these, this was my old ignition here, which is the keyed one. So what I'll actually do now is I will have, well, I've already done it, I'll show you in a second. So first of all, this ignition wire for the Motoscope Pro, I'm going to re-sight round to this ignition wire here actually. And I will move this ignition somewhere easier, but brown wire will go to the lock, and the red and the black will go to the battery. Not unlike that, you'll see I've also added my reg rec as well. So there we go, brown wire to the lock, and red and black to the positive and negative, which is quite a simple install actually. Quite a simple install. So what I'll do actually is, the key thing of course is where do you sight this on the bike. So the idea is to keep it out of the way. So I've got a few options, but I'm going to keep it hidden rather than on view. So first task then is to prep up these wires, which will involve me shortening the wire actually, and prepping it up. So on the bike, what I've been up to, a bit of tidying up of the cables. I think I've shown you that already once before. But I'm kind of getting this to its final place now as to where these things are all going to go. Getting my earths sorted out, all neat, etc. So anyway, I'm going to put the RFID thing in the battery box, utilising one of these plastic end caps that I put in, if you recall. Because you can't have it behind metal apparently, you've got to have it either on show or behind plastic. So I'll put that in there. So just short leads to the positive and negative terminal of the battery, and the brown wire to the M unit. Relatively easy. Let's do all that, shall we? Okay, first task is actually I'll put in this 1 amp fuse on the red wire. So I'm actually going to solder these on as well, to make them, because it's such an important part of my system. So that has to be a little bit shorter, doesn't it? Yep, that. that first, don't we? Right, that's my inline fuse done. Now I'm going to put a earth wire on the black, and I'm going to put a connector on the brown, actually. One of these. Okay, I must just show you this. In my last time I was doing these connections, I was showing you wrong how I do them. So what I've done since I last filmed this is I grip the wire. Let me zoom in. Okay, so I'm gripping the wire with the second set of grips. See that? I've actually soldered in my wire connection there, and the little silicone jobbies need to be grabbed by those things. So you kind of just pinch them up like that. Yeah, and that's how those connectors are properly done. Cool, hey? Okay, so here's my finished article. There's the RFID reader end, battery terminals, and the connection to the ignition on the M unit. And I've done that so I can work on it. Okay, so let me just put that on the bike now. This is super simple. So like I say, I'm going to mount this in here. So let me get that out of the way first of all, and do me earths first. OBS. So let me just. So when I'm doing my earths, I've got this battery strap here, which is down to the gearbox. And I've got my ignition, and I've got the main earth from the M unit. So I'll just throw those all together quickly. I will shorten this M unit one because it's only there for practicing. Okay, and then the positives. You've got the main M unit, and then you've got your, I haven't put the 40 amp fuse on this yet, but I will. There's the main M unit power, and there's the 1 amp fused ignition. Oh, is that working? Yeah. Okay, that's powered up. And then, you can't see it there. Let me just move it up a little bit, like that. Then I take my ignition wire into the lock. Oh, into the lock element. Now then, where's me thing? It's there. Okay, so the way this works is you take your master key and you momentarily touch the thing, and you won't have seen that, but the actual lights flashed on the bike. Then you take your actual key and you touch that on it, and the lights flash on the bike, and then you do that, and that means that the this key is now programmed. Quick as that. So if I was to do this, I'm sure it's supposed to be a light. Oh, there you go. There's a light on the back. See that? Ignition on, ignition off. It really is that simple, actually. Let me show you the programming again, because you can do it any time. So the master, it just was a flash like that. Program your key. Reintroduce the master. And now this one puts the ignition on the bike. Let me show you from a different angle. Okay, not sure if you can see, but if you keep your eye on the headlight and the Motorscope Pro top right, as I tap the ignition on bottom left. So ignition on, light comes on, Motorscope comes on, and that means I can start the bike. And then to the ignition off, I tap it again and it's off. That is so easy. So there you go, RFID ignition installed. Okay, what I'm going to do now is fit this Acewell Speedo into the old original Speedo hole. So that's the thing that came out of the Speedo hole, and that's the new one that's going in from the Acewell. Looks pretty similar. So the idea is that sits in there, and remember that vented screw. Make sure you can see down the middle of it. You can. That goes in there like that. Okay. In the original assembly, it had an earth strap mount, which kind of went there, but there's no need for that in this assembly because the earth strap is inside the box. So I'll just use the washer that came with it. So there's our Speedo attached. Awesome. Right, guys and girls, if you're watching, we have a small dilemma. I've known for a bit of time, or I've suspected that this isn't necessarily a street legal installation, but I found out why this week, and the reason why is because the indicators aren't easy to see when you're braking. So let me just show you what I mean by that, using my Motogadget RFID start. So if I pop the lights on, okay, they're all great, and if I hit the brake, that's all great. If I hit the indicator, That's super. As you can see, if I hit the brake while I'm indicating, that's actually not easy to see at all. So what I've decided to do, turn it off, what I've decided to do, well, two things actually. The other thing which annoys me a bit is with my one wire brake and rear light, I can't have this light coming on with ignition, which is what I want to do, which is what happens to the halo. So if I have to turn the lights on for this to come on. If the lights aren't on, oh, that's the wrong button. If the lights aren't on, like that, that goes off, but the halo's still on. Let me show you. Which I like a lot. So I actually want to have daytime running lights of the halo and the rear light, and that means I'll have to wire them as separate lights, which means I've got to rewire that back plug and put on some dedicated indicators. So I will probably get some more of those little Motogadget ones that I've had at the front, but they're damn expensive. So in the meantime, I've got some cheap ones. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this around here. Oh. There's a small bracket here which actually came off the battery, and I bought a couple of mounts which I've bent in the vise, so you can see how the paint's cracked up on it. But I've bent that in the vise. I'm gonna bolt those on there. I have a couple of cheap indicators sticking out there, up until the point where my Motogadget ones arrive, and then I'll replace them with something a bit more permanent. But as I've got to get this to its MOT sharpish, this is my short-term fix. Let's do it. Right, adjustments have been made. So, these are my budget indicators, which are eBay special. They're about £3, which is good. So all I've done is I've put this little bracket on, which I showed you, and then I've wired them up. The right-hand indicator is white, left-hand indicator is yellow. I've earthed them, and then on the connector, which is this one here, I've kept this one as the brake. This yellow one here is the rear light, and I've joined that with this one here, which is the one that goes to the halo, which is that one, and anyone's interested. And then they go into the aux 1, and that means that when I now fire the bike up, the halo will work and the rear light will come on. So let's just try that first of all with our cool thing. Okay, we're on. We're firing up. We have a halo. We do, trust me. Over back light, he said, falling over the wire. And more importantly, we have indicators. Yeah, that's cool. Right then, that is a job done. Righty, charge circuit. I have, as I promised, shortened the wires on the alternator. Self-explanatory, mentioned it before. The way this goes now is, oops, I've got the battery terminals, which I will not connect to the battery just yet. What I'm going to do is, as I said before, I'm going to run the engine and test the voltage before I connect to the battery, but they go on positive and negative in there. And then the orange wire, swap hands, the orange wire goes to this little device, which it goes to ignition. Okay. This is my 47 ohm 10 watt resistor, which is in between the reg-rec and the ignition circuit, and I've wired it onto this metal thing here, really for heat dissipation. I'll fix it more permanently. For now, just kind of wired it on with a bit of twisted wire, but that is designed, as I've said before, to draw a bit of current and get the generating circuit working. Without that, it doesn't fire up. So that's where my resistor is. No doubt that will inspire comments from people, but that's where I've put it. Got to be somewhere really which is away from everything else that it could get quite hot apparently. So anyway, there you go. That's my resistor. Charge circuit installed. Still messy here though, isn't it? Still messy. Right, well now I've installed all this stuff, I can put the cover plate back on. Okay, in preparation for getting the bike started, I need to connect this, which is the positive terminal for the starter motor, but it's a big old wire that. So, tell you what, I think it's 170 amp, which is a monster. Anyway, short version is this wire will be too short to go the route I want to take on the new battery site. So for now, I'll rig it up because we're going to try to get the bike started shortly. I'll rig it up as is without the cover on, but I am going to have to get a new cable for this, which is a bit longer. But in the meantime, I'll put this on the positive and we can test the starter. Okay, so I've run that starter feed to the live, or positive rather. So now that should turn over. I'll just fire up the bike, press the start button. That kind of works, doesn't it? Great stuff. Also, the battery definitely has got enough oomph to turn that engine over, which is good. That's the first test of it. Right then, so what next? Well, I think that's plenty for one day. Progress made again. Not long to go before I need to get the thing on the road. Literally a matter of 2 weeks, actually. So I better crack on. So, hope you liked it. Please, if you did, please like. Subscribe if you're not a subscriber. Click the bell to get alerts. Any questions, etc., please fire them across. I'll do my very best to answer them. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.